This is the time of year that many people are thinking about holidays. Probably happened a bit sooner this year because things opened up and were a lot more easier to get around in terms of COVID-19 compared to the past two summers. But the price of long-haul flights, they could increase by over €10 per return ticket. This is as a result of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Joining me now is travel and aviation journalist and, of course, Ard Clock resident, Eoghan Corry. Hi, Eoghan.
Good afternoon, Ciara. Happy Monday.
Thank you very much. Happy Monday to you too. So are we to expect this to just affect long-haul flights, Eoghan?
It's not good, but don't panic yet. It takes a little bit of takes a little bit of time for the oil price increase to filter through the aviation system. I'll tell you why in a second. But there's a lot of things that are not good for long haul, particularly going east. We've got a big airspace closure, which means that overflights, not just of the conflict region of Ukraine is gone, and Moldova is gone as well, but we have a situation where Russia can't be overflown. Big deal for getting to Japan and China. The traditional routes of the Irish aren't really that affected, but as you say, the oil price is spiralling up, $120 a barrel. Just to put that context in that, 2008, $140 a barrel was the record. And back then, some of listeners will remember, travel companies, airlines started putting on fuel surcharges, €20, €30 holiday, and some of them, even when the price came way back down, kept them for a couple of years.
So I heard Michael O'Leary the other day on Sky News. He was giving an interview. He was discussing this summer, and he had noted that Ryanair, by and large, has their fuel reserves up until, I think he said spring 2023, maybe even touching summer 2023. So that's a whole year. So if that's the case, then should it not be the same for any other airline, or does it differ?
It differs very much. It's basically Michael O'Leary is a man who's at his best in Punchestown, and he takes these gambles all the time. If the price is going to go up, if he reckons it's going to go up, he buys a certain amount of it at a hedged price. Now he's hedged very severely for 2022. At 80% of his entire fuel has been bought at an advanced price, which is much lower than the spot price, as they call it, the live price that you would pay at the pumps if there were such a thing for aircraft.
So would he have done this foreseeing a potential issue, do you think, with any war that could have happened?
He does it every year. He reckons the fuel price was quite good. Everybody's been saying it was quite low. It spiked a little bit at the beginning of COVID 2020, then went back down again. And what he does is he waits for the moment, goes in, buys as much of it as he can, and spreads it out over delivery for over the next 18 months, as you say. So 80% of him is. He also hedges at different prices. It's quite complex, but it's a gamble. And I remember famously, we all at a press conference started poking him a little bit for getting it wrong because the price went down and he bought at too high a price. And it was a classic Michael O'Leary response. He says, I got it wrong this year, but I'm really looking forward to getting it right the next 9 years in a row. And he generally does get it right. Now, other airlines are doing the same. I mean, Lufthansa just did a briefing last week and they have hedged 63%. The British Airways hedged something in the same region. The reason they hedged so much was they reckoned that price was low. They didn't foresee the war. They just reckoned that it was a good time to move in and hedge your price. Now, that doesn't protect you indefinitely. And there's another issue here, that the smaller the airline, the more problem they have. They don't have the buying power. If Ryanair is going in and buying that amount of oil for his fleet of 300 aircraft versus somebody going in for 4 or 5 aircraft, or someone starting, and Aer Lingus Regional is an example of that. Conor McCarthy just started his flights for Emirates Airways, which is the contract for Aer Lingus for the regional routes. They're always in a position where they're paying the higher price. They're the ones who are going to come under pressure quickly. The other thing that will happen is the big holiday companies will probably come under pressure quickly. So while we haven't seen surcharges, what we've seen is some of the airlines, the ones that aren't hedged, pushing up the prices on the scale that you say, but we've already seen domestic airfares go up substantially in America. And America was ahead of us in recovery in terms of the numbers flying. Europe is being a little bit more complex in that customers were reluctant to buy, so the airfares that were floated onto the market for 2022 are much the same as 2019, whereas in America there's about 20% higher. If the war continues, if oil starts going soaring back past 120, 130, 140, God forbid, we will see airlines coming under pressure, but not immediately. And then remember that closure of airspace, a lot of Irish people going to Japan would use Finland. Finnair, talking to them last week, they've got increased journey times of 4 and 5 hours on a lot of those routes.
So, Eoghan, if I was somebody who didn't book with, say, earlier on in the year and I'm looking to book a holiday now, is your advice to book as soon as possible or maybe to wait? Which kind of should people go with?
I think that if you know exactly what you need, book now. But I do think that it's going to be loose enough, because what the other effect of the Ukraine war is that people who were thinking of returning to travel this year might delay it. So we could still see the fare sales. We could still see the availability of holiday spots. A lot of the countries that rely heavily on Russian inbound holidaymakers, that accommodation is probably going to become available at a good price. Turkey, Belek would be an example there. Croatia would be another example. We've 5 direct routes from Ireland this year. So, there are probably good value to be got, even if you don't book now. But if you've got 3 screaming children who really, really need to go to one particular place and get the kids' tubs that they want, jump now. Okay,
that does not sound like fun. 3 screaming children. Thank you very much for joining me this afternoon.
Great pleasure, Ciara.
That is Eoghan Corry, of course, travel and aviation journalist and, of course, Ard Clough resident.